so much back, I think I'm never running out. Yeah, bust me down a whip, bitch. I don't do.
All right, thank you for Bruno Lapa for joining me for my seventh episode of Football Unscripted. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks for having me. Thanks for the invitation. How
Yeah,
about
no
you?
problem. I'm doing well, doing very well. So the Hammering Down podcast labeled you as the Brazilian magician, and you, which I is a fair assessment. I went back this week and I just watched a ton of your highlights, and you played for Montverde, which is
hmm
a huge school. A lot of big players came out of there, and you played for Wake, which I am from North Carolina, so I know that is a
hmm
huge school.
Okay.
And then now you play for Birmingham. But my favorite clip that I found of you was when you scored. I'm pretty sure it was your debut when you scored two on Tim Howard. That was
Yeah,
insane. So Tim Howard is like one
I
of my
appreciate it.
all-time idols.
Oh
So just
wow.
starting out, like, what did you think about that moment?
Yeah. So well, I appreciate you watching it and then you like
Hmm.
those phases of my career. But yeah, it was it's my debut, like you mentioned. It was my first professional game ever.
Hmm.
Obviously, like leading up to it, you're always excited and you're kind of nervous as well to kind of get the career going because it's a dream of mine to become a professional. It was a dream of mine to become a professional soccer player since I was a little kid. So leading up to that moment, it was an exciting week. So obviously, whenever those two goals happened, it was just I didn't really believe what was going on at first. I didn't
Yeah.
put two and two together until like probably halftime when I was like, wow, like we're up 3-0 right now. It's my first game as a professional soccer player. So things started very well. So yeah, it was a dream debut for me and yeah, like you mentioned, Tim Howard's a legend in
Hmm.
this country. So obviously to score those goals on him, it makes it even a little bit more special. So yeah.
Well, I remember watching that because, which doesn't feel like that was that long ago. I mean, it was only 2 years ago, but still, it was a long time ago. But I remember when that came out, I actually watched it. I didn't even think anything of it, and then I found it again this week. I was like, oh my gosh, he
Mhm.
was the guy. He was the guy that scored two on Tim Howard, which is
Yeah,
crazy.
that's
But
fine.
yeah, I usually start at the beginning, but I just had to go to that moment because Tim Howard is
hmm
such a legend. I mean, that guy has blocked shots from Cristiano Ronaldo, and he has the world record or he has the World Cup record for most saves, and you scored two on him. So
I
that's
know.
something
Yeah, it
pretty
was.
proud of.
Yeah, for sure. And the thing is, he's also a rival. Memphis through all those years became like
Mhm.
a rival now
Yeah.
because they're close and the fans kind of make a rivalry out of it. So that also makes it special. So I think everything about that day was very cool. So but yeah.
How'd you feel after your debut? I mean, there's so many. I mean, that was your literally first game ever, and you scored two. Doesn't even matter what team it is against. You scored two in your debut, and there's people who take 5 games to score. Like, what were you thinking? Were you start off
Well,
such a high note?
I felt a lot of pain to be honest because I broke my toe in that game
Mm,
when it was still 0-0. So I had to do a lot of pain for like the next like two,
mm,
3 weeks. It was very painful to continue
yeah.
to play. But now just jokes aside, it was after the game I couldn't really sleep. One because I was in pain, but second because I think I just you're still on that high of what happened and kind of like
Hmm.
obviously people are gonna reach out to you, people are gonna text you, and like all of a sudden like you start rewatching like the game and rewatching the moment. So it felt good. I was excited for the next games and kind of like get going with my career. So yeah, I think the leading up to it, like I think the moment that I realized like wow, this is about to happen was during the national anthem. That I was like, wow, like you here, right? You here, you earned this moment, you worked for it, so just enjoy it.
Yeah.
Try to not like mess up too much. That was kind of like my mindset leading up to the game. Don't lose the ball too much. All of a sudden, like getting two goals, getting assists in that game was special. So also my teammates all they helped me out through the whole week. Kind of like understanding that that would be my first game, but also at the same time, kind of like helping me out dealing with those feelings. So yeah, so I think everything just kind of worked out that day. So I was very
Yeah.
happy.
Doesn't that perfectly sum up sports that you scored two goals and broke your toe in the same game?
I know it's crazy. It's unreal. So the things that people don't know about it, there was a tackle. If you go back, and if anybody goes back to that game and find the moment, it was right in front of their bench, and I kind of like close to the sideline, and I got the ball, and then he stepped on me, and then I was in with so much pain I couldn't sleep. I didn't
Mm.
literally didn't sleep all night. Like I was up sitting on the couch just with my foot on the ice. And every time my body wanted to fall asleep because I was so tired. Like the amount of pain that I was in, like I just couldn't fall asleep. So then that morning, I got an X-ray done and it showed that it was broken. So and I continued to play, and I think like 4 days later, I scored another goal against Charleston on the road. So I think just kind of like you said, it sums up like things that you have to go through when you're playing professional sports. So yeah.
Toe pain is the worst though. Like you wouldn't think it is, but it takes the breath out of you. It really. I mean, I've never broke my toe, but it hurts so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It is very tough. So it took me a few weeks to kind of like get back to normal. Take a lot of painkillers, but yeah, it's good laughs now.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feel about your first 2 years of your career?
Yeah, so it's a lot of ups and downs, like naturally how every player is gonna go through. You kind of like have a good season, and all of a sudden you have to deal with injuries, and you have to deal with like things that maybe you never dealt with it before, especially as a professional. So now in my third year, so it's a lot of ups and downs, a lot of things that you think you're not gonna experience that you have to, and a lot of challenges, a lot of things that maybe you don't think you should be going through and you are, and vice versa. But yeah, I think one of the main things about being an athlete is dealing with your mind. I think the mental aspect of the game is just it's a big huge thing. So being able to deal with those moments and still continue to trust in yourself and trust in the process, and kind of like understanding that you're gonna go through those ups and downs, that roller coaster of being an athlete. So a lot of experience in those first now 3 seasons. A lot of good moments, bad moments. It's just part of it. Yeah.
So from an outsider's perspective, it seems like the USL is such a changing league. I mean, Charlotte was taken out of the league last year, and they're just like there's players that last only half a season or a season. But do you just sit and think about how proud you are that you've made it this long in the USL? Because it is such a huge league, and you've made it and you stayed this long.
Yeah, 100%. I think sometimes we just always looking and focus on the things that kind of like not going well for yourself. I wish I played more. I wish I scored more. I wish I, did something more. And all of a sudden, like you forget to be grateful for the things that maybe you accomplished that a lot of people wish they did. So like you mentioned, like when you get there, when you get to the league, when you make it to such a prestigious league, you kind of like want more, and you like kind of get frustrated when things don't go your way. But then you look back to when you didn't have anything, and all you wanted is to have an opportunity and kind of like be a pro. And when you get there, you always want more. So yeah, I think it's good to look back. We have to have those moments to kind of like focus on just being grateful for making it, and kind of like looking back to the moments when you're a little kid and you play in the street or whatever it is that. Okay, I want to make it one day, and so it is good to be grateful. Sometimes I even forget to do so. So it's always good to have those reminders that people want to be in your place. So you just gotta continue to work, be grateful for the opportunities that you have, and kind of like just continue to work, continue to grow, but never forgetting where you came from. So
you're still staying hungry. You still want to keep on going. And what are your goals for the rest of the season, for the rest of your career?
Yeah, you have to stay hungry, because it's a quick season, it's a quick career. I think like soccer just goes by so fast, and like you mentioned, like it's a changing league. Like teams come up, teams go down, teams join the league, teams fold, and all of a sudden, like if you don't stay on top of your game and you kind of like continue to learn, continue to get better, like your job is on the line. And maybe the job that you maybe have this year, the career that you have this year, maybe because you didn't like perform the way you should have, or didn't grow as much as people expect you to, maybe you won't have the same career. Maybe no teams want you anymore, and vice versa. So you have to constantly be hungry. You have to constantly be focused on those things. So obviously as you get older, you start looking to other things in life and other priorities outside the field, and things that also are important to you as well. But bottom line is, as long as you play soccer, as long as you make a live off of it, you have to be dedicated to the game and grow and learn, because like you mentioned, it's an evolving league, it's an evolving game, so you have to be a learner of the game.
And you made a good point to that, which I think is something really interesting with the USL. And when I was a kid, like, I mean, USL has existed for a while, but I only watched like Premier League, Bundesliga, all stuff like that. But this especially those last year, I've been watching so much USL 1 and USL, and it's such an amazing league. But like, and yeah, I love European soccer. I do. I love watching it. But one interesting thing about USL, which I applaud everyone who plays in that league, is that at any given moment, any team could get promoted to the MLS, and then boom, most of all their players are cut, or they get demoted. Everyone leaves. So I think it's very impressive that you guys stay in form and you stay and make sure that you have a spot to play, especially you. I mean, you've been player of the week how many times?
I was a first team all league, my rookie year, but yeah, that was it. Last year I did dealt with injuries, so yeah, like I mentioned, it's a lot of ups and downs, but yeah.
But still, impressive that you kept so on top of it, and there's just so many guys in this league, and the league definitely deserves more credit than it gets. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think the system here in the US is a bit different than European soccer and even back home in Brazil. So you do, like you mentioned, have promotion, relegation in those leagues, and here we kind of like end up like not having that. Obviously, teams can expand themselves into a bigger league, or vice versa. They can like maybe come down a league, but you can't really earn that on the field by performances. So it's a little bit different. Kind of like takes away a little bit of motivation of I want to be a part of a first division team. Let's just get promoted. But at the same time, you still have the hunger to like go up in the system and maybe go play a different country or whatever goals people have. So it is a different system, but like you mentioned, it's a league that's been around for so long, always changing, always evolving, and very competitive. So yeah, it's a good time.
I don't know if I've fully asked this question. I think I have to the people that I've had on the show, but do you think that we should have promotion and relegation in America?
I think so. I think it can only add positive things to the sport. I think that's one of the things that limits soccer of being able to compete with soccer in the US and being able to compete with European leagues and whatnot. So I think the country itself, the United States, it's a huge country. Always, have big leagues in NBA, NFL, MLS, whatever it is. So I think they have the potential and they have the structure to become a powerful league as well in soccer to compete with the European leagues and whatnot. But at the same time, I think when you don't add that promotion relegation system, when you don't have that competition aspect of things established into the system, I think will be a little bit. That's always going to be a little bit of limiting of how far I think soccer in the US can go.
That's a good point, because that's one thing about American sports is competition. So I think eventually they'll add it, because I don't know. I don't play pro, but I hope they add it because I think it would add this crazy new level of competition. And I mean, we see how much it means in other leagues. Like I watched the German third and second division. I can't remember the team names because I can't pronounce German words that well. But it was such a good game, and it meant so much. And like, I mean, Omaha, they made it to the quarterfinals of the Open Cup. I mean, they lost to Sporting Kansas City pretty bad, and they're a League One team. So, I agree.
No, yeah, that's an amazing example that you just gave, because you can see there's a USL Championship team in the semifinal now with Sacramento in the Open Cup, and like you mentioned, Omaha made it to the quarterfinal. So it's not like it's a very established like the best teams are in MLS. Then USL, then USL League One. No, because you have teams from other leagues beating each other all the time. So I just think like adding that promotion relegation to the system, I think it just adds positive things to the country itself and to the sport.
Yeah,
and
yeah, and the MLS. I mean, LAFC just got Bale. I mean, so many players playing MLS. But USL also has featured Tim Howard. Didier Drogba played in Phoenix, and I mean, if we had Didier Drogba take Phoenix to the MLS, like think about how crazy that would have been.
That'd be, yeah, exactly.
They made it to the final. I know they lost, I'm pretty sure, but I know they made it to the final or semifinals, one of the two. I don't remember. But
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Obviously, there's a financial aspect of things that kind of like will always limit that to be established
mhm.
because having a MLS franchise is financially very different than having a USL franchise. So I think that's always going to be a limiting thing. But who knows in the future what happens if things change?
Yeah,
So we have to wait and see.
very good point. You have USL2 experience, I know, and I currently work for a USL team or USL2 team,
Hmm.
and the team basically is a non-profit team just because how much money is spent and how little money is made. So I think that is a good point, is the
Hmm.
money aspect of it. And we all know American sports is basically all money.
Hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, USL two is a great experience. I think it's a little bit different of concept than the professional leagues. Obviously,
Mhm.
it's a competitive fun league as well to be playing during the summer. And I had a great time playing for the club that I did during this time. But yeah, it's a little bit different of a concept. It's more like I think for players that either are in college and wanted to stay in shape and also give opportunities for hopefully a professional team see players playing the league. And I think every year the USL League Two is getting more competitive. You see
Mhm.
like great players playing that league. So hopefully, that continue to grow and who knows, maybe becomes actually a professional league in the near future. So it is good to see that every league in this country every year gets more competitive, gets better. So hopefully the same thing happens with the USL League
Yeah.
too.
Well, I read this stat a little while ago. I think it was a month or so ago, but it's 80% of people in the USL2 make it pro in some league, which is, and it's say turnaround, but that is a good point because I don't know if you know Knoxville's team
Hmm.
has an outstanding budget, and the team I work for competes against Knoxville, so I'm going to say whatever I want about them. I hate them. Uh, but they have this huge, huge budget, and it's crazy how well these college players, which I mean, you played at Wake, I'm sure that you experienced getting
Hmm.
treated pretty decently, but it's just crazy how good some of these players are getting treated in the USL too. And I think it's a fantastic idea, and I hope it stays.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I mentioned, obviously being a Wake Forest, you have top facilities, but a lot of those USL two teams also have great facilities. There's a few
Hmm.
examples around the country that teams that actually can provide like a top level professional facility to those players, which makes it even more exciting. And then all of a sudden, every player wants to play for those teams,
Hmm.
right? So players that want to play for those top USL two teams, they have to obviously be good, and that kind of brings the competitiveness out of in the league, and then there's more good players trying to play in the league, which means that the league goes up and the league gets
Hmm.
better. So I think everybody wins in that situation.
And one interesting thing about the USL2 too is that these guys are pretty much already learning kind of what it takes to play pro, which is
Hmm.
a question about you is you played for Montverde, which is a huge school. I mean, it might not feel huge to you, but from an outsider me, like
Yeah,
outstanding school. I mean, Ben Simmons went there, Roger Barrett went there, crazy players, like just another sports went there. Did you have more experience becoming pro because you played at a huge ACC school and you played for a huge high school? Like, did you kind of
I
know
think
how to be a better pro off the field?
100%. Yeah, 100%. I think I learned a lot, especially because I just moved. I'm freshly moved from Brazil, going to
Mm-hmm.
Montverde. All of a sudden, I'm put into like this very professional environment where like everybody wants to get better. The program there, the soccer program is huge. A lot of great players coming out of there. You pretty much breathe soccer every day because it's a boarding school. So you don't get to do much besides going to school and playing soccer. So you play soccer pretty much for hours, 3, 4 hours, train at a high level, to high level coaches, high level players that they bring into the school, and all of a sudden like that kind of got already sets you up to go to get seen by a good school, such as Wake Forest. So out of the schools that I had an opportunity, I think Wake Forest was always my main option, and I'm happy that you end up working out, and then you join Wake Forest, which like I mentioned, is in the ACC,
Mm-hmm.
one of the best programs in the country, and then you continue to play that high level. A lot of ups and downs as well. Getting as a freshman, not playing as much as you think you should have, having to adapt, having to learn, having to get better in order to earn your spot on the field. So that was my case, and I think all of a sudden, like you leave Wake Forest and you feel ready. Like you feel ready.
Mm-hmm.
You feel like you've been through so much in this past like 4 or 5 years, and you learn so much that it kind of becomes of a natural thing, a natural process moving to the professional leagues. And yeah, obviously the game is different. The game is faster. The decision making is different, but that's just part of, again, moving up and moving to a different level. So and it was a good transition, but like you mentioned, going to those schools definitely help with that preparation and with the opportunity. So
Well, one thing you said was about how the quickness and pace gets better, which I just go to a D1 school. I don't play, but I go to D1 school and I see just how fast it is. And then I go to USL1 game and I just see how fast it is. And it just get faster and faster. And I'll stand by this point. I firmly believe that I could play pro. But one thing I've never had is the experience playing that fast. And I don't think I could compete in it. And although I did go practice yesterday and I ran for 10 minutes and I cramped in my calf and my quad, and which was embarrassing. But yeah, and then I went to go try and play. And then there was these 13-year-olds right next to me while I was cramping. So it was not
yeah.
the
So
most fun thing.
obviously, there's a lot of good players out there in the world. That's no doubt. But to be playing in a professional field, professional players, it's just more than just being a good player, right? So it's just more than having the skills and having the quality to do so. There's a lot of other factors that come into it, like the mental aspect, like I mentioned, fitness. When it comes to being able to run, because you can be a very good player, but if you're out of shape, you won't be able to play, especially at a high level. There's no chance. So maybe you do 1 or 2 good plays, but all of a sudden your body's gonna start breaking down, and then you can't keep up with whatever you want to do. So yeah, it is interesting that how many things come into play in the professional league besides just being a good player. So decision making, being calm, being composed, understanding, tactics, understanding, being a smart player, a smart soccer player, understanding like the game playing, reading the game, reading other teams, reading your teammates. A lot of things that come into play. Just okay, I can juggle the ball and I can shoot. So yeah, it's a lot of different things that come into play. So but yeah, I'm sure that if you come training with us, I think you'll be fine.
Thank you. I'm glad you made that point though, because I have this conversation in my head. I'm like, yes, I think sometimes I have the technical capabilities, but there are so many things that I lack because I haven't been in a professional environment. Like, I don't know if I could gain like how to train properly, how to diet properly, and some of those things, just like being in a professional environment, I can't really teach myself. So I think that is a good point you made. I'm glad that you backed that in my head, but that's why I'm not playing pro.
No, I think everybody can do it. Everybody can make it, but it's being a professional just more than just being able to play. It's living that lifestyle and understanding that you can't just switch on and off. Like you have to be a professional even when you're not playing. You have to be a professional. Decisions that you make, the food that you eat, what you drink, how you take care of your body, how you sleep. Just everything about it. So, and then like I mentioned, like being able to do the right things, to get your mind in the right place where it needs to be. Just there's so many things that come into it. So it is. I think everybody can do it. Obviously, it's just a matter of who's willing to do that and who's willing to understand that being a professional is a lifestyle and dealing with the ups and downs and dealing with the sacrifices, just like every athlete in the world and every sport has to do it. So you just gotta go with it.
Yeah, when I was in high school in like 10th grade, like I was very talented, but we'd be running like miles. I was like, I don't know if I can do this, man. Like, and now I know for a fact I could get through it. I mean, like I'm not saying I'll be pro, but I think I could get through it just because soccer is the most beautiful thing on the planet, and I think I could endure it. But no, that's a good point. Is not a lot of people, I think, could handle it. But
yeah.
So kind of going back, and you've said this. I know I've heard your stories on the other ones you've been on, the other podcasts you've been on, hammering down, and then the for some reason, and it's gonna sound dumb, but I keep on thinking that podcast was called Three Horny Men, but it's called Three Honest Men. I don't know why I keep on thinking that in my head. Like this whole day, I was trying to remember it, and I was like, it's not that. I know for a fact it's not that. but
You're
kind of
fine.
tell your story of making it from Brazil to Montverde.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, since I'm a kid, like 4 or 5 years old, I've been playing soccer, playing my whole life, and it was something that little every year, like things start going like and moving in a better direction for me because I I think my family starting to realize that I was like a little bit of a special player growing up, and I started to play more competitive soccer as I went. So when I was around 9 years old, I joined the Atlético Paranaense Academy, which is one of the biggest clubs in Brazil right now. And I played with them until I was around 16, 17 years old, around 16. Um, and then all of a sudden, like I had the opportunity to go to other clubs in Brazil, but my mind was always moving a little bit different than other players back home, and I wanted to leave the country. I wanted to go somewhere else, and I had an opportunity to go to Portugal, kind of experience European soccer for a little bit, and that was a great experience. I went there, spent some time with Boa Vista, which is a first division team in Portugal, but I was with the academy obviously, but that was a good time. That was a good experience. I was in Portugal. I was playing, players that I never played before, different soccer culture, similar language. It's a little
Yeah.
bit different in terms of the accent, but that was a good experience as well. But ended up that I kind of wanted to go back home. Like things there didn't like go how I thought they were gonna go because at that point I couldn't really sign a professional contract until I turned 18, so I had to stay there for like another year. So I couldn't play the tournament. I couldn't get paid or whatever it is. So that's when the opportunity to kind of come to the United States showed up again. A year before, Montverde Academy, kind of like we had somebody that knew the director there, and at first I kind of was scared to go to the United States, but then I was like, let me try it out. So I went there for a week, check it out how it is, train with the team, and I fell in love with the idea of like studying in Florida in the US, playing a high level there, just leaving the US in general. So that's when I committed to go, spend 2 years there. And that was it. Yeah. So great time. Montverde, looking back to the decision of coming to the US, it was the best decision that I think I made in my life was to commit to coming to the United States and kind of like pursuing that education and soccer career at the same time. So I don't regret it. So yeah.
You're the third Brazilian that I've had on here. And the first two said the same thing. They said that in Brazil that it was school and sports were separate. And did you enjoy getting the chance at Wake and at Montverde to do both at the same time?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and they're right. Since I probably was around 14 years old, I had to start like studying at schools that maybe I didn't want to study because I had to study at night because I was training morning, afternoon. And everybody in Brazil just naturally, when you're a soccer player, you kind of push school to a side. It's just how it is. And a lot of players don't even finish high school, never, and probably none of them go to college. Like you look into the professional soccer players in Brazil right now, I'll say 1%, not even 1% went to college. So I could be wrong, but it probably would be interesting to look it up to see what's the actual percentage of players that play professional soccer in Brazil and they went to college. So
I should have done my research. I could have provided that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure that it's probably around 1%.
I'm sure
So,
it's low.
So coming to the US is in the opportunity to study and play was something that was always in the back of my head. Like I can still do both, and all of a sudden, like attending a school like Wake Forest, I was like, yeah, I'm living the best of both worlds. I'm playing a top program and I'm studying the top school. So I was very glad that worked out. I think my family always wanted me to, at least finish college, and I did that. So proud of being able to accomplish those things and still continue to pursue my dream to be a soccer player.
So I come from a very huge Duke fan base family. So, which I'm sure that you do not like Duke. But one thing they talk about is the brotherhood. So does Wake have that kind of like alumni family, like I know there's been multiple guys from Wake make it pro. So do you guys have any class? Do you guys still have that kind of connection?
Yeah, so we do have a very strong alumni foundation just because Wake Forest is, if you look into the ACC schools, it's probably the smallest. So that makes it obviously is the fan base itself is not as big, but they're very passionate and
Yeah.
the connections that you make with Wake Forest are very strong because all of a sudden we have 5,000 students as a student body and we have 6,000 people in our games sometimes. Like, you have like everybody just buys into it, buys into your team, buys into the program, and I think the things that you go through at Wake, because of how hard it is to play, how hard it is to be successful at Wake Forest, you kind of like bond with the people around you, your teammates, and all of a sudden you have old alumni that always come to the school to say what's up and kind of get to know you, and you develop that strong foundation of players that be in your shoes before, they understand what you're going through with the current players, and whenever recruits come in, the future players as well. So it's a very special thing that we have going on at Wake Forest. I think the program itself, it's obviously the numbers and the stats and the recent history shows that it's a very good program, but it's just beyond that as well. Like, it prepares you to be a man and
Yeah.
and be a good person off the field as well. So I own a lot to Wake Forest and the things I learned there under the staff, my teammates. So and yeah, you do keep connection with some of the players. Obviously, like, people go different ways in their lives, and mostly with the guys that continue to play soccer, you kind of like see each other around and you trade jerseys when you play against each other.
Yeah.
I have a few jerseys of players that I play against when they were my teammates. So that's a special thing as well, to kind of like, you on the field and looking on the other side and have somebody that used to maybe live with you in the same dorm. So it's good to see that both are there to live the dream. So it's
That must be cool to see how far
Mhm.
you've gone with each other.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, small school, but very high tuition, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the things about Wake for sure. Yeah.
But one thing you said about is the alumni, and it's just crazy how many talented people went there. I mean, in May when they posted picture of Jack Harrison scoring the winning goal for Leeds, and I've been to the school one time, and I don't know why, it was like this coolest thing. I was like, that's so crazy. They're posting the picture of this guy in the Premier League and stuff like that, and they're like, and that he played there. It's just crazy that a school that small can produce talent that high.
It's funny because it's an interesting story. I don't know if I shared before in any podcast, but maybe I have.
We get a breaking news on this podcast.
Yeah. Ooh, I don't know, possibly, but I can't remember if I ever shared that, possibly. But I was a senior in high school when Jack Harrison was a freshman at Wake Forest when he played there.
Mhm.
And out of all the schools that are recruiting me, Wake Forest is the one I wanted to go. I was watching videos, I was looking at pictures, I was watching games, I was looking at rankings, I was looking at everything. I'm like, I want to go to Wake, best conference, whatever. But Wake Forest they told me, say, hey, like, we don't have the scholarship for you that you want and you need, and that you're looking for. And that was during the fall, and then we chatted like probably like 7-8 times, and every time they're like, yeah, we don't have it, we don't have it for you, like. And all of a sudden, like, I have plenty of opportunities to go to different schools, but I just kept holding, because that's where I wanted to go. And then I go home for the Christmas break, so I'm about to go into my last semester as a high school student, and I don't have any school that I'm committed to. And usually those big schools that have players that commit 3 years before or 2 years before, and I'm about to be 6 months before the season starts in the fall, and I'm there, still in high school with no school to go. And I'm talking to my mom, and then I get a phone call from Bobby Muse, the head coach of Wake Forest, saying that Jack Harrison signed a professional soccer player, signed a contract to be a professional soccer player to go to the MLS. And because Jack Harrison left, that was the reason why I was able to go to Wake Forest. So because that freed up the scholarship that I was looking for. So yeah, so it's an interesting story. Every time people mention with Jack Harrison, I'm like, yeah, that was very great. He played Wake Forest, but I was also glad he left, because that was why I was able to attend the school. So interesting story. So yeah.
Have you ever talked with him like ever and just be like, "Hey man, thank you for letting me go to college. Like, thank you for letting me play awake."
Yeah, I mean, we never got to know each other very well. Like, when I went to my visit, he was still there, kind of like because after he got drafted, he went back to pick up his stuff, to go to New York, and I was there on my visit. So yeah, we chatted for a little bit, but that was kind of like the only time because we weren't teammates or anything, so we never developed any sort of
Mhm.
connection. But I heard great things about him as also as a person. So and obviously as a player, we all know how good he is. So.
That's crazy that you guys have that connection like that. And you don't even know each other really.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. It is crazy.
So thank you, Jack Harrison, for
Yeah,
for being so good
yeah,
that you went pro in 1 year.
pretty much, pretty much.
But you said an interesting point earlier, and it was that the ACC is so good, and it is crazy that. And obviously, ACC has got amazing basketball. I loved watching basketball,
Hmm.
but it is
Hmm.
crazy how good ACC soccer is. Clemson won the national championship last year, and Carolina's got a great school and or great soccer program. It is insane how good the ACC is when it comes to soccer.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's something that um Bobby Muse, the head coach, and us always talked about that sometimes winning the ACC tournament is harder than winning the
Mhm.
NCAA tournament because pretty much every single team in the ACC is a good team, and every game is a battle. Every game is a tough game, no matter it's on the road, especially, but at home as well. It's gonna be a tough game. There's never like an easy game. So which makes it good. It's good for the conference.
Mhm.
It's good for the league, and but yeah, it always kind of like obviously winning the national tournament is it's very special. But we always joked about how we winning the ACC is harder
Yeah.
sometimes than winning the actual national tournament. So because you're facing top teams, every week, and you never know what's gonna happen. So
Mhm. So while you were waiting for that Wake scholarship, what were some other opportunities that you had from other schools? If you
I
can
had
say.
yeah, a few ACC schools, like Louisville and even to Boston College to
Mhm.
Clemson and Duke said didn't have enough grades to go there, so yeah, no Duke for me.
Duke's insane, the
but but
requirements.
yeah, my grades aren't good enough. But and then some, then you go to the other side, you have UCLA, and then all the big schools in Florida. St. Louis is the first school that ever recruited me, so I always remember that.
Mhm.
10 times national champion back in the day, so it's a special program as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of opportunity now. Is not going to be here saying all of them, but a lot of great schools. I'm very grateful that the opportunity that they gave me. I made sure to thank all of them. When I made my decision to go to Wake, I made sure to reach out to thank them for giving me the opportunity to go there. So that was it was a good moment, but I was glad that I was able to attend the school that I wanted to.
Yeah. I think it's funny that you had the grades to get into Wake, but you have the grades to get into Duke. That's just crazy, the requirements.
I know, I know. Yeah, I just Duke is academically also
Hmm.
top school. So
Well, I also think
um
it's funny some of the guys on the basketball team and just whatever, maybe the basketball team because I keep it with basketball so much, but those guys had the grades, and some of those guys are kind of dumb. So
yeah,
I'm wondering,
yeah,
well,
I don't know what happens in there, but I'm sure they're good students. Yeah.
yeah. So in your time in the ACC, did you have any? Obviously, I want to hear about your times on the field and some of your craziest moments. But did you have any like fan experiences that kind of stuck out to you, good or bad?
As a fan at Wake, um, well,
Or
you always supporting. What you say?
let me rephrase that. Like,
Mhm.
with fans in the stands while you're playing is what I meant.
Oh, I thought that
But no,
me
no,
as a
you can
fan of
tell
other
your story
sports.
too.
No, 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 no. No, no, no. I don't have any. I was trying to come up with something like so if I can remember, but I'm good that you rephrase it because I have plenty of those. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean we it's funny because we were one of the smallest schools ACC, but in our attendance we're one of the highest in the league. It's because we have such a passionate fan base with
Hmm.
with everybody that comes to our games, and I think and playing at Price Stadium was always special. It's a special stadium, and we had a good time there. But But yeah, we had this tradition that every time we score in big games, big goals, we jump on the wall. You jump on the wall,
That'd be cool.
and celebrating with the people that stay on the hill that we call the hill, and the congregation as well, which is our like the supporting section that they passionate about, which you love. They always made the game so special for us. But you used to jump on them and kind of like hug the fans and things like that. And all of a sudden, in big games, they have they have beers all in there, and then a couple of times you jump with them, and then you come back playing the game, and you just smell like beer because you have beer all over your body.
That yeast smell.
And you smell like beer, and But yeah, I had a lot of good moments with that fan base and the students that always made it special to play as Pride. So yeah. So I feel the school, especially Clemson, they will have a roster, of where you're from, your name, and the fans will be just stopping you saying things about. And I remember, like, when I would play Clemson one year, and they would have like, they knew I was a Brazilian. Obviously, everybody knows what happened between Germany and Brazil in the World Cup, 2014. So they were just like really giving me a hard time about what happened, and it kind of like, just coming at me because I was Brazilian.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a rough year
sometimes. It was a rough time. There's a couple of times they go above and beyond, and they kind of research your Instagram, and if some of the guys had girlfriends, they would just start calling your girlfriend's name in in games, and that hostile environment that's also fun to play. So it makes it special. It makes it fun. So yeah,
I think, which obviously you shouldn't say stuff like that. I mean, I don't care, but I think it's a good thing that college soccer gets that big. It's that big of a deal, and that it's grown to that big of a deal. I think that's a good thing that people do stuff like that. They care so much to get in the other team's head like that in college soccer, which is so impressive that the game's grown so much like that.
Yeah, it is. It is. I think when you are in college, I think regular students just want to find sometimes some reason to drink and to kind of like talk some nonsense stuff. So they just attend the sports events and kind of like, and maybe like, the kid in your class that plays for the basketball team, and that's my guy. Let me go watch his game. And then all of a sudden, because we were a small school, everybody kind of knew who he was, because we always top one, top two, top three program in the country. So everybody in school knew who we were. And we always like, acted very well in the community on campus, which makes people, okay, I want to go watch them play, right? I want to see what they're about. They're good people, they do, they're not like cocky or anything. So I think that's something special about our program, that we're able to connect with everybody on campus. That makes everybody, okay, let's go support them, let's come to their game. So yeah, I think everybody wins at that moment.
Yeah, I'm lucky to go to, I'm not a student athlete, but I'm lucky to go to school where we care so much about athletics, because it just makes it so much more fun. We get so much attendance at our games and stuff. And well,
are you in school, or what's
yeah, I go to ETSU.
Oh, ETSU, okay. Okay, nice. I've been there before. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The spring game over there.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they played Marshall.
Oh no, we
season.
We play against them at home. We play against them
Oh, really?
I scored 2 goals.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think so. I think if you look it up, I think it was my junior year, first or second game of the season. If I'm not wrong, but yeah.
So you scored against my school, cool.
Yeah, it was a 2018 season. Yeah, 2018 season.
Okay.
Yeah, this could be wrong, but I think that was ETSU.
I'll look it up after and I'll let you know.
Yeah, it sounds good.
But they played Marshall, and the Marshall won the national championship 2 years ago. So like it was the previous season, but it was just a crazy game because so many talented players on that team.
Yeah.
But this poor guy, because their goalie got sent off, which was insane, even though we lost 3-1, I'm pretty sure. But their goalie got sent off, and the poor guy, the backup goalie, this poor guy, he was redheaded, so he got harassed the whole time just for being ginger. I felt so bad for the guy. And he didn't do anything. He didn't make a save. He didn't make a pass. He didn't do anything. He just stood there the entire time. Anytime the play got anywhere near him, it was something about him being ginger. And honestly, it was beautiful, but I felt bad for the guy.
Yeah. That's just college sports in the show. People just finding stuff to pick on you. And the thing is, the problem is if you bite, then done. Then they're gonna keep doing all game. So you can't buy on those harassments or whatever they're provoking you for. Because if you bite, if you get mad, or if they see that it's affecting them, then they're gonna keep doing it. So yeah.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure once they get in your head, then
yeah, for
it's all
sure.
gone.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap it up with one last question. I want to hear your answer because you're Brazilian. I want to know who your favorite player of all time is, and who you think the greatest Brazilian players of all time. 2 separate questions. Who do you think?
Okay, favorite player of all time. Well, the favorite player that I watch play, let's put it that way, that I was I was alive to watch and kind of like experience and grew with it, was, I think for me, is Messi. Yeah. I think that's a huge discussion of who, Ronaldo or Messi or any other player, but for me it was Messi. That I watch play, I think he's the biggest. And Brazilian player, I think I have to say Ronaldinho, because that's the guy that kind of make me fall in love with soccer. Kind of like watching him play every Sunday afternoon with my dad when he was at Barca. Kind of like he was a special feeling. Like we used to watch the game at Barca, and then after the game was over, me and Dad used to go play in the front yard against each other, just because it was so fun watching him play, and kind of like you trying to do the things that he was doing and kind of like be like him. So I'll say him. He's a guy that maybe you could say Neymar, you could say other players, maybe even Pele, but for me personally, a guy that made me really look at this game as a special way was Ronaldinho.
Yeah. Well, you're the second Brazilian to say Messi as the best player of all time, so I guess that says something. Yeah. But then, so when I was in middle school, when it would rain or a storm and we couldn't practice, my coach would just take us in the locker room and we'd just watch Ronaldinho highlights the entire practice. That's all we did. Yeah. Just so we could learn. It's crazy how naturally talented he was.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like you bring this joyness and happiness to the game that this magic that nobody else is able to, so it's just very special.
Yeah. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I want to thank you for coming on again.
No, thanks for having me. That was very fun. Hopefully we can do this again sometime soon.
Yeah, a friend of mine lives in Tuscaloosa, so I want to come to that area and I want to go see a Birmingham game. So if I'm ever in the area, I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know. I got your tickets. Tickets on me, so you're my guest for the game.
Thank you very much.
Of course.
Good luck to your season. Have a good day.
All right. Thank you so much. You too.